Hello everyone, hope everything is well where you are, and I appreciate you joining me on this drive. Beta is approaching, and although it may not be in the incredibly near future, we could still get giddy with anticipation and discuss what to expect in future releases. Today's topic is base building, and I'll put a disclaimer here that these are just my thoughts on DayZ standalone, and I in no way represent the dev team or their goals and aspirations for the game. These are just my views on the topic at hand, and that's bases. I recently delved into Arma 3 Exile, which for those of you that don't know is essentially a mod of Arma that allows helicopters, base building, vehicles, and all other kinds of goodies to be playable. However, despite all the glory those statements project, the reality is the bases in Exile do nothing but break the immersion we all know and love about DayZ and Arma. Some appear to defy the laws of physics, others look like they were ported from an Alien vs Predator film. As a whole, the buildings left me with a stale feel. And when I saw these massive structures, I slowly grew fearful for DayZ's future in base building. I understand eventually it will be handed out to modders and anything can happen then, but for the vanilla version of the game, I'd like to see the base building immersing us deeper in our experience, not pulling us out. Let's just go over the current status, I guess you could say, of base building, or more so the current storage situation. There are barrels, which you can also use for tanning leather, which is awesome. There are car tents, civilian tents, and military tents. And that's the end of our list. Although these items are fantastic for the current status of DayZ, I'm not sure they can really be classified as base building materials. More so, they're just options for storage that if you dedicate yourself enough, you can turn into a base. And even then, it ends up looking more like a tent city than it does a home for you and your fellow survivors. I know this isn't what the devs have planned as a final option for base building, and I imagine when they do come out with base building in the future, it will be fantastic. These are just some of my thoughts on the topic, and what I would like to see from its future. What I'd prefer to see from base building is either a single house system where you build a fence around an individual structure, or a plot of land in the wild with a very low height limit. The height limit being probably the most important part. When you give users the ability to build high, they almost always are going to build ridiculous. With that being said, I'd really love if cabinets and drawers inside of buildings had an interaction system, maybe making certain buildings more appealing for storage space options, and others more livable for their locations or homeliness. If I built a fence around this tavern structure, I would love to be able to access the different shelves and drawers in the building for inventory. Then to add extra reinforcement, we could board the windows up and safeguard the doors with keypads or locks, hopefully providing the survivors who built it a true sensation of home. The yard outside the building within the fence could be used for tents, barrels, or vehicles depending on the size. This could give people a reason to make a single structure their own as opposed to a wild plot of land. An airlock system would be a very good way to regulate campers from attaining all the hard-fought for loot, so locks on the fence around the building could be in play, and locks on the building itself as well. In general, you're going to have people camp the base and attempt to get in that way, and that's completely fair. If this were a real-life apocalypse, I don't doubt someone would wait you out, especially if they knew your position. It's up to you as a survivor to make your title appropriate and find a way out. In a perfect world, only civilian structures would have the potential to be built upon, and military locations would have a 1.5 kilometer radius of no building allowed. This would stop people from hoarding all the military loot and essentially blocking new players or anyone else from getting there. For wild plots of land, I'd love to see a claiming system that connected to a fireplace with an incredibly rare item that allowed you to build around its placement. This picture perfectly paints what I'd love to see from the plot-based building. A central home base tool, if you will, with player-tall scrap and wood walls surrounding a medium-sized open area. Maybe the size of the space you're allotted is based on the number of individuals you have checked in as users of the base, with a cap size at X amount or whatever the devs so decide. Storage could work with tents, barrels, and huts. Maybe HESCO barriers were accessible, but were considered high-end base building loot and were incredibly difficult to find. Generators have already been seen in the game files alongside spotlights and cables, so there could be a great different numbers of light systems going on. Maybe even one of those refrigerators from a junkyard could be usable one day. The sky's the limit, honestly. Personally, what these last 3 patches have showed me is that the new Infusion engine has opened up the game's potential and allowed the devs the ability to really create what they aspire to. What are your guys' thoughts on base building, and what would you guys like to see from the future of it? Let me know what you think in the comment below, and I'll be sure to respond, get a little discussion going. Hope you guys are having a wonderful day. I look forward to seeing you out there in Chernarus. Bye-bye.